Hey, I just wanted to drop in here and capture some of my thoughts after finishing a 10-hour day doing a conference that I had signed on for, not really knowing how the year was going to go. At the beginning of the year, we had realized that we should probably develop some of our information into courses, online courses that we were, you know, we at the time we thought, oh, we'll be able to do this at our house, be able to do workshops, be able to teach people in person, because the gardening business that we do, what our passion is for, is to actually teach people. We do obviously do gardening just for people who just want their yards to look nice. We do garden designs for people and install them that don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to learn anything about it other than, it looks good or it doesn't look good. But then what our real passion is and what we try to focus on when we're not doing that part of our business is teaching people. Because, when you teach somebody to do something, they'll pass it on. It'll keep going. It spreads as opposed to just stopping with you. So we thought, okay, let's do some research. How can I've never done an online course. I've done tons of teaching and tons of speaking and helping people in person, but I've never connected like through a camera. So I thought, okay, how can we do this? So we started doing some research and we came across a program called KBB, or Knowledge Brokers Blueprint. And it has been mind-blowing and amazing and so worth all the time that we've spent doing it and the investment. Well, this weekend is culminating with basically like a world summit that is in that same program. And it's like it's Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins and like so many of the people in the knowledge industry. And the reason we picked it is because we knew that for our business to be sustainable and for us to truly get the information that we've learned the really long way to people, outside of our just direct sphere, the only way we could do that is to learn about how to do this online. So basically that was and then obviously COVID happened and all sorts of other things happened this year that then we realized, oh, is this even important? Do people even really care about this? Like, there's so many other really important things happening. Is plants really important? Is planting? Is knowing about gardening really important? And then we saw the explosion of gardeners, and we saw that seed companies were like sold out by April. That people all over the internet were suddenly growing stuff in their home, and they're excited about this. And we saw so much success. Well, we also saw a ton of frustration because, again, you can grab all this stuff and you can follow certain steps, but if you're missing one or two of those steps, you're going to have some frustration, you're going to have some failure, which is a good thing because you learn from that failure. But at the same time, if you have a couple of resources, like people that have already learned those lessons, then you can go to them and you can be like, oh my gosh, I did this or I did that and the watering didn't work, or these exploded and I planted way too many, or whatever the issues may be. And so that's where we realized, okay, this is important. What we do is important. And so we've been going through these classes, and we've been trying to figure out how to scale this and how to offer something that would really like bless people and feed them and give them information they needed in a concise way. So that has made me get deeper and deeper and deeper into my personal story about plants, and that everybody's story is completely different. Obviously I do this with two of my kids. Isabel, her story of plants is remarkably different than mine. She went to school to be a horticulturist. She grew up living with us. So then there was lots of gardening happening. And so she has a very specific path that she came by. Tristan, same thing. He works with us. He has, an entirely different motivation. My personal motivation and what I'm really digging into is that plants and gardening were something that came into my life at a moment when I felt the worst, when I was failing the most as an adult. I had 4 children. They were all under 5 years old. I was exhausted. We were financially struggling, and I started going to a counselor because I was just like kind of coming unwound. And I didn't understand because I'd always been somebody who's just super upbeat, super willing, ready, just, just a fighter through and through. And I found myself just ill. I was just ill and just sad and just angry and, all over the map. So got a really good counselor, basically got diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and personality disorder. And I don't remember the specifics because I was just horrified by it. And I just was like, fix me, just fix me. I don't care what it is. Give me whatever you got to give me, but fix me. And of course, this doctor was just like, well, that isn't really how it works. We need to find landmarks. We need to teach you skills. We need to, especially with the OCD, that's going to be something, you had it before, you're going to always have it, but I can show you things to keep it from becoming debilitating. And I was just like, I'm always going to be the person that misses the cracks in the sidewalk. I'm always going to be the person that has this weird gait walking down the sidewalk because I'm trying to miss the cracks. And my husband's just like, oh gosh, what is, can't you just walk like a normal person? I'm like, I am a normal person. I'm just more interesting. But basically, so once I got this, it was just like, oh no, I'm broken. How did I get broken? I just need to get fixed. That's all I cared about. My entire motivation was to be fixed. Well, I don't think that's how life works. I think that sometimes we get realizations and awarenesses of things so that we can not be fixed, but become stronger, more interesting, deeper, more textured as people. And I'm just so glad that I didn't get fixed, because what happened from that is that I came home with a bottle of pills and still had 4 little kids that didn't understand any of this, a husband that needed to work because I didn't at the time. And I probably had a pity party. I probably freaked out a little bit. But I also knew deep down that I want my kids to have a mom that wasn't freaking out, and a mom that wasn't like obsessively reorganizing the pantry or refolding the towels because somebody had did it wrong, or unloading the dishwasher and reloading it because something was off. I just didn't want them to have that experience. I didn't want them to even for 1 second think, oh, there's a way to be perfect, or there's a way to, organize things in a way, because that's what that OCD does, is it's like, oh, there's a perfect way, there's a right way to do stuff. And I just don't think that's true. I think that, but at the time, it was the only way I could cope because I just felt so out of control. So unbeknownst to me, in my heart of hearts, it was totally God saying, this is what's for you. This is what you're gonna do. I had this divine inspiration to go outside, take my little kids outside and just go outside. Well, my outside was a pretty neglected yard. It wasn't even our house. We were renting it. And we had 2 big dogs that had pretty much destroyed any grass that had been there. And I just had this inspiration to make it a magical place. And I didn't have any money. I didn't have any skills. But I just knew I had to do something, and I wanted my kids to experience something special. So we started just kind of cleaning things up, putting in little whimsical rock pathways because we could get free rocks along the river or along, dirt roads, and, picking up little things at thrift stores, making little things for fairy gardens. And basically, over the course of that year of, being in counseling and taking, the prescribed medication and getting the sleep that I needed and having this outlet outside, I just became an entirely different person. I didn't get fixed. I didn't go back to what I was before, because what I was before wasn't functioning very well either. And so this experience of being outside and being with these plants and being alive in an entirely different way absolutely changed my life in a way that metamorphosis changes a caterpillar to a butterfly. I began to care about something at a whole nother level. I cared about creation, and basically I failed at it miserably. Probably half of what I bought died because I would get it and I would be like, oh, this is really pretty. I'm gonna stuff it under this bush, or I'm gonna plant it over here under this walnut tree where nothing grows. And I had no idea that there was like rules and ways to do things because I was just doing it blind. So Then I was like, okay, this isn't working, but it was doing something. It was feeding something. And a friend of mine had mentioned that someday she wanted to be a master gardener. And I was like, what? What's a master gardener? That's me. I want to be a master of something. And at the time, I was studying and teaching Taekwondo, and I was studying for my black belt. So I understood that level of mastery. I knew what that would take. And so, but I was like so interested in the plant world that I thought, that's where I want my direction to go. That's what I want my attention to go towards. So I found at a local university, you could do these master gardener certifications over the course of a year. So I enrolled, it was like $75, and you had to have like volunteer hours and whatever. And I got busy. It was the hardest year of my life because not only did I have 4 little kids, I was having my mom watch 4 little kids who was not a 4 little kids kind of person. She had me, and I was like super serious and, you know, could be left alone for hours and hours and hours. And now she had these totally wild, you know, kids that, you know, they were a lot of fun, but they did cause her a lot of stress. Well, she would have them while I was in these classes because my husband was at work. And so some days did not go well because suddenly there would be somebody who would come into the classroom and be like, oh, there's a lady in the parking lot with 4 screaming children and one of them has a dislocated elbow. I think you have to go out there. And I would just be like, God, I'm never going to get this done. And I felt like quitting, and I felt like, why did I even bother? You know, this is just going to hassle. I don't deserve to do this. I shouldn't, you know, take the time away from my family to do this. But I just kept, you know, it was like the opposition was like my cue to push harder. And so I just kept pushing and pushing, and I finished the year, got the certification. I went to work at a nursery, and people started asking me for help. And not only did I get to help other people, I came back to my own project with my own children, and I created the most unbelievably beautiful yard on hardly any money at all, because I would just get plant, you know, swaps and, you know, cuttings and divisions, because I learned in this program all of these rules, you know, that when a plant says part shade, it actually means part shade. You know, if it says full sun, oh, by the way, you have to plant it in full sun. And, you know, so with these really simple tools, I realized, oh my gosh, I can do anything. My children can do anything. Anybody can do anything. And so that's what really put this passion in me in 2005, that I could help people. And it wasn't just this simple thing of, oh, I can keep a plant alive or I can have a beautiful garden. It helps you on the inside, like the very inside. Because one of the things that I really struggled with is like, if I can't keep a plant alive, how in the world am I going to raise children? Like, how am I ever going to have any impact on the people that mean the very, very, very most to me if I can't even keep a plant alive? And by learning that and just slowly getting better at it and mastering this subject, I got better. You know, how I treated people got better. How I spoke to my children got better. I felt successful. I didn't feel like, oh, I just failed at something else or I gave up on something else. It empowered me beyond anything that I can explain. And that's what my plant story is. Deep down, the very, very bottom of it is they, you know, in so many ways, you know, what I believe God created and asked us to take care of. I'm doing that. I'm doing what I was asked to do. And it means so much to me because that's like the very base, the foundation of life is to, if you can do this simple thing, you can do anything. But you have to start with principles. You have to start with rules. You have to start with, you know, strategies and landmarks. And I was able to not completely get rid of, you know, any of the things that I deal with, but I was able to recognize them when I am getting tired or when I'm just starting to get a little bit more obsessive. It's time to back off. It's time to take a nap. It's time to go on a walk. Time to watch a movie, play a game with my kids, or put a puzzle together. And it changed my life. And I guess that's what I want to offer to anybody who's just really struggling with something simple. To start with something simple, like just keeping a plant alive. It'll change your life. Thank you.